I'm a novelist, and I live in Oak Park. So I was walking back from a coffee shop, actually, one day last spring, and I noticed a light was burning on in the window of the Hemingway house, and I'm not sure why, to this day, why I did what I did, but I just took a left and walked in and said, you know, I'm a novelist, I'm looking for a place to write. Of course, I thought I was insane. Well, I got a call, and they said, you know, they liked what I wrote, and they thought it would be in the spirit of Ernest to have a writer back in the house.
A younger writer today who is a very gifted writer, very talented writer, and in many ways brings poetry into his prose, much as Hemingway did, has decided to work in his attic, and we were more than happy to have him do that.
And it was built by his grandfather, and his mother inherited it.
It was a home that was Queen Anne style, Victorian style home, like most of the other homes at Oak Park at the time, built in 1890. He was born 9 years later, and born into a society that was still under the influence of Queen Victoria, who still ruled in England. He was a man who grew up in a very spiritual family, a family whose father was was a doctor, was a hunter.
He really didn't like it up here too much because his father kept his medical specimens over in the turret. He was and is one of the big influences of literature in the 20th century.
The foundation is committed to restoring by 1999, which is the anniversary of Hemingway's birth, restoring the birthplace.
The foundation has just done a remarkable job of keeping it going, because otherwise it would have been torn down. The book I wrote up here, the title is a little self-referential, but it really was the title, and that is, it's called Hemingway's Attic. And it really deals with what I went through as my 12 years of struggle as a writer. My forthcoming novel is called Micah Highways. That's coming out in the fall. And I would think that Hemingway's Attic would probably follow the year after. It's going to start a tradition now of getting writers back into the house, which is really neat because now the house has a real function. Aside from being a museum, being Ernest Hemingway's house where he was born, now writers can go there, hopefully after me, and you know, do their work, be writers in residence in Ernest Hemingway's house, which I think gives it a real sort of a mission.
William Hazelgrove is a writer who has followed in the footsteps of Ernest Hemingway, literally. He's writing a book in the attic of Hemingway's boyhood home in Oak Park, Illinois. The Victorian house is now a museum. The Hemingway Foundation gives tours of the rooms on the first 2 floors, but its attic suits William Hazelgrove just fine. The novelist says he had been writing in the basement of his own Oak Park home, where there's a new baby, when he got the idea to ask for a place to work in the Hemingway house.
I walked in, this woman who was giving tours was sitting there. It was just she and I said, hi. She said, would you like a tour? I said, no, actually, I'm a novelist, and I'd love to have some space in this house. She said, gee, you know, there's really nothing like that. So we took a quick tour, and we went up to the 2nd floor, which is outside of Grace's, his mother's bedroom, where Ernest was born. There's a door. And I said, what's that door go to? She said, well, that's the attic, and that's off limits. At that point, I said, could I just take a look? And we went up the steps, and it's a cavernous attic. And I just knew it the minute I saw it, this would work as a place to write.
Why? Why is it such an agreeable place for you to write in?
I felt I was a million miles away up there. It could have been 1890 or 1997. It had this feeling that one could have been in the Himalayas up there. You look for a certain neutrality in a space, a certain feeling that it's away from everything. And then, of course, the energy in the house, because it is Ernest Hemingway's home, is very intense.
Now, this spot, this in the figurative Himalayas, as you say, this is only about 4 blocks away from your house.
Right, exactly. But, you know, when you're up there, when I first got up there, it was very eerie, because this is a 19th century home built in that era and decorated in that era. And there's all the pictures of Ernest and Grace and his father, the whole family, as I go up the stairs to the attic. So it was very dark. I was actually it started working along, and I looked over and I saw something hanging from the rafters. It looked like a dead animal. So then that night I went home and I dug up a biography. And sure enough, in the beginning of it was this part about what his father used to do. And he was quite the embalmer. And he had taken their wedding cake and embalmed it and then hung it in the attic. And Ernest used to say he always hated going up to the attic because there's this embalmed cake hanging from the rafters.
His father was a physician.
Right, and he actually practiced in the house here.
And he embalmed, you say he embalmed the wedding cake?
Yes, he embalmed he and Grace's cake for all time and then hung it.
What do you write on up there?
Actually, there's all these boxes of Hemingway busts up there, actually bronze heads, and there's quite a few of them, to tell you the truth. And so I stacked them up, 3 on each side, and laid this old door across it, and found a chair up there, and put that in there, and then I have this beat-up laptop that I put up there, and that's it. I wanted to leave it very much the way it was.
I just wondered, having spent so much time now in the house where Hemingway was born, whether the environment that he came out of, and now, of course, you live in Oak Park as well yourself, not far away, whether you've come to any particular insight about him from being in such close proximity to where he grew up.
I think I have, in that, it's very Victorian in Oak Park still, and he came out of a fiercely religious household and very strict household. You understand what he was rebelling against a lot. And, of course, Oak Park was this very waspy, conservative, almost puritanical area that he came out of. And a lot of his mother and father asked him why he had to write dirty books, referring to The Sun Also Rises. So I think a lot of his writing can be seen in the context of a rebellion against that.
Well, William Hazelgrove, thank you very much for talking
thank
to us
you.
about it, and enjoy your writing up in Hemingway's Attic.
Thank you very much.
William Hazelgrove's last book was Tobacco Sticks. The working title of his current novel is Hemingway's Attic.